Welcome back. We're going to continue to talk about rhythm today. This is 102. If you haven't watched 101, please go ahead and watch it, maybe after this video. In that video, I actually really don't go into like practicing rhythm or naming the notes or anything like that. I just talk about the elemental aspects of rhythm: time, space, heartbeat, and gravity. Time, because time is where music happens, and without time we cannot have music. Time is the canvas, but it also is affected by the space. How that time is spent is affected by the kind of space music occurs. And we talked about how every music has heartbeat of its own, and that is the measurement for music. We have to understand, we have to decode that heartbeat, which is called steady beat, to be able to analyze and practice and talk about music. But we also talked about how not every beat has the same amount of gravity, and that's where gravity comes. Some beats are heavier and more important, more than other beats. I am Kristina Lee, and welcome back to Live Love Piano. If you're new to piano, I would love for you to check out my course, Simple and Beautiful Piano for Adult Beginners. So what is rhythm? Rhythm is made up of notes that have different duration. Duration is the length, right? I mean, you can actually just have one duration of notes. Like it can be like da 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 da. That's one kind of rhythm. But often it's made up of multiple different lengths of notes. For example, it can be ba 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 ba. See, ba, that's longer. Ba ba ba. Those are shorter. So in that rhythm, we have two different kind of durations. And in music, there's often a rhythmic pattern that repeats. We recognize that a similar rhythm or the same rhythm repeats multiple times in a piece of music. And that's why we can move with music, we can groove with music. This is what sets a tone for the music. So we're going to go straight into reading or interpreting rhythm and rhythm patterns and practicing them. I prepared a PDF handout for you. And at this point, if you like, you can go and just download it and watch the rest of the video, or you can download it after you watch the whole thing. I have these 4 pages, and we're going to just start with the first page. In this first page, I have note names by rhythm values. So if you look at it from the left to the right, the left has the longest duration note. And that note is whole note, like 1, okay? And then when you go to the right side, it's a half note and it has a stick called stem. And half note is half of a whole. And you can see it here in the note value pyramid that 2 half notes go into 1 whole note. A shorter note than that, duration wise, is a quarter note. Okay? So it's a quarter of a whole, right? So you have 4 quarter notes in 1 whole note. Shorter note than that are eighth notes. And 1/8 note looks like that. When we have more than 1/8 note, we use what is called beam instead of doing the tag on every single one. Beams have more than one purpose, but I'm not going to go into it right now. I just want you to understand that this is 1/8 note, and these are 2/8 notes. You can write 2/8 notes like this too, but more often they are written with beams. These names are important to understand, but actually they're not as helpful in understanding how to interpret rhythm. What's most important in interpreting rhythm is to first find out which note is one beat, which note is the steady beat. Every music has something called time signature, and time signature is basically a fraction. It has two numbers, a number on top and a number at the bottom. On top, you can have any number, although we usually have certain numbers. We have popular numbers. And then number at the bottom is limited. Okay, you can have 4, you can have 8, you can have 2 also. But we're not going to worry about it. The most popular two numbers are 4 and 8. 4 stands for quarter note. 8 stands for an eighth note. Okay? And this is what tells us what the heartbeat is. What is the one beat? If you have 4 in the bottom, that means a quarter note is going to be one beat. If you have 8 at the bottom, that means an eighth note is going to be one beat. But for the sake of keeping it simple and practicing rhythm without getting too much into the theory of it, we're not going to worry about the 8 today. We're only going to deal with 4 at the bottom time signature. In fact, we're going to focus on 4/4. Now this means the groupings are in 4 beats. So a quarter note is one beat, and we have 4 of them. That makes a grouping for that particular music. So what we would feel is like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/4 is so popular in music, it's often written with just the letter C instead of 4/4. And that stands for common time, because it's common. And in order for you to practice, I just want you to get really used to this common time feel. So I did not explain everything you need to know. There's no way that I can explain everything you need to know. But I explained enough for you to start practicing rhythm. And as you practice, you're going to have questions. And that's the best way to learn. If you try to start with so much information, it is more debilitating. And that's actually the one downside of this kind of format where you're not really talking with a teacher. But bear with me, I'm going to try my best to give you just what you need, enough for you to understand and feel empowered to practice. And if you have questions, you can always leave it on the comment section, right? When you're practicing rhythm, there are 2 ways of practicing. One way is to vocalize rhythm while feeling the steady beat. You can feel the steady beat by just counting kind of like pulses in your head, either with numbers or pulses, or by your body movement. It could be a nod. It could be this. It could be your tapping. So we're going to go to 1.1 of your PDF download. And first, we just have whole notes, right? So 4 beats each. So we're going to vocalize the whole notes with ba, okay? And I'm going to just feel that beat with my hand, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba, 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 ba. That's one way you can practice rhythm. 1.2 is 2 beats each. So you're going to go ba, 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 ba. I won't finish it. Okay. 1.3 is quarter note. It's just 1 beat. So it's going to match with my heartbeat. Ba, 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 ba. Now 1.4. What is 1.4? There is a half note with a dot. A dot next to a note has rhythmic function, and any note can have a dot. In this case, we have a half note. By the way, the stem on the note can go above or below, depending on where the note is placed in the music. And that's what it looks like. If the stem is going up, it's on the right side. If the stem is going down, it's on the left side. The dot that we're talking about is always on the right side, though. This changes the duration, how many beats this note is. Before the dot, it was just 2. Okay? And the dot adds half of that value. So it's 2 plus 1 becomes 3. And that's true for every note, every other note. Like if we put a dot on a whole note, which is 4 beats in our practice, you add half of 4, so it becomes 6 beats. So we're just going to look at 1.4. So it's going to be ba, 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 ba. So I hope this is all making sense to you. I'm just going to do 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, like 2 measures each. Measure is that kind of the box area. These are called bar lines. So anything between the bar line is 1 measure. Okay, so like each number has 4 measures or bars. Means exactly the same. 1.5, I'm going to do 2 measures. Ba, 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 ba. 1.6, ba, 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 ba. 1.7, ba, 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 ba. So this is just one way to practice rhythm, vocalizing. And vocalizing is very powerful because that's the best way to internalize rhythm into your system, your body, your inside. And you want your music to come from inside. That's when it has power and impact. Now, another way to practice rhythm is by counting and performing the rhythm. So for example, I'm going to go back to 1.3. Because there are 4 beats each measure, I'm going to continuously count 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're welcome to write down 1, 2, 3, 4 under these notes. Like you can write down 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Okay. Or like 1.5. This is going to be 2 beats and that's 3, 4. You can write the counting down so you don't have any questions about it. Musicians, we write a lot in our music. So 1.3, this is another way to practice. So I'm going to count first. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it. Let me do 1.5. And 1.5 would be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would advise you to do both ways because vocalizing is actually really, really helpful, but also performing rhythm with your hand is going to help you when you're trying to play it on your instrument, especially piano, because piano is a percussive instrument. Now we're going to go to the next page, which have eighth notes. So if I vocalize 2.1, it's going to be like this. So these are my steady beats again. Okay, and 2.2, so on and so forth. 2.3 is the opposite, right? Quarter note first, and then eighth note. Ba 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 ba. 2.4. Now you have something that you haven't seen before, which is this curvy line between the notes. When you have this curvy line between the notes, two notes right next to each other, because there are other curvy lines that are over many notes, but when you see something like this, this is called a tie. So what happens is you hold this note, but you don't actually strike it. You don't actually play it. You just, this first note that's tied gets longer. So let me demonstrate. This is going to be, that's my beat. Ba, 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 ba. If you're not sure how to do it, practice without the tie first, which is what 2.3 is. Ba, 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 ba. And then you think that ba, that second note, that's tied, but you don't say it like this. Ba, 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 ba. So when you have a note that's not on the beat, but on the off the beat, or we call it upbeat, like 1 and 2 and 3 and. We put the ends when we have smaller notes than the quarter notes to understand precisely where that smaller note occurs, okay? When a note occurs off the beat or on the upbeat, they are called syncopation. Okay, and syncopation is a pretty hard thing to learn. Okay, you have to, the main thing is feeling the beat that you don't strike. Okay, ba, 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 ba. And now I want you to look at 2.5. So you see how we have a dot on the quarter notes? Yeah, so the quarter note is one beat right now, right? But with the dot, we have to add half of it. So it's 1.5 beat. Now, 1.5 beat, through all my teaching, this is one of the most abstract thing for a student to really understand and be able to perform, okay? So, but 2.4 and 2.5, when you perform the rhythm, it's exactly the same thing, because with the tie, that those two notes also make 1.5 beat. Okay, so that's a really good way to understand 2.5. So you're gonna go ba 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 again. All right. So that's when you vocalize the rhythm. When we have eighth notes, we start counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So in music, you start counting with the smallest duration of the note value you have, okay? So you can write down 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, I hope you can see this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I didn't write this down for you because I want you to do it yourself. I could have added it, but I didn't, because actually this is part of the practice that you should be doing. For 2.5, I'm just gonna write it here so you can see better. And 2.4, and this is 2.5. I'm going to clap my hands to perform my rhythm, and I'm going to count with my mouth. Okay, so 2.1. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2.2. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can always go slower too. I'll do 2.3 slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 2.4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And 2.5 is exactly the same. It's just written differently. I wanted you to understand how the writing can be different, but the way we play might be exactly the same. And there's a reason why we use one or the other theory-wise, but you don't have to know it. You just have to know that they're the same thing. So I would advise you to really work on these first 2 pages. And, you know, they're repetitive, so I want you to really internalize what those rhythms feel like. So 3.1, if you look at 3.1, what you realize is that now we have different patterns. What I did is I took rhythm from the group of ones and group of twos, and I try to put them in a way that is still musical, but they're a little bit more mixed, okay? I'm just going to demonstrate all of them for you, okay? And I think I'm just going to do the vocalization. And I'm going to leave you with like working on the tapping or clapping on your own to figure out, okay? So 3.1 is like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba, 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 ba. 3.2. Ba, 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 ba. 3.3. Ba, 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 ba. 3.4. Ba, 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 ba. 3.5. Ba, 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 ba. 3.6. Ba, 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 ba. 3.7. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. If this is too fast for you, YouTube has, ability to slow down the video too, so you can always watch it slower. You can watch it faster. Just, figure out what works for you. And I hope what I'm presenting you today, especially if you're just beginning to learn piano or music, is making sense and giving you some really concrete things to work on. Really, all of these, you just want to be able to do it. And then the other things, when you look at the music, you want to start being able to envision what that sounds like. So I think that's good enough for Rhythm 102. In Rhythm 103, I'm going to give you some exercises for getting ready to play the piano 2 hands. Okay, so we're going to talk about issues with that, some challenges, and what to practice. So thank you for joining again. Don't forget to subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments if you have any questions If you like this video, let me know.